Ladies and gentlemen, every brilliant corporate strategy eventually comes down to execution. And execution requires people. Our final panel of the evening tackles a topic that is the top of the mind of every business leader in this hall today. Talent, skilling, and labor challenges. To stir this vital conversation, please welcome our moderator for the session, a sharp editorial voice at the Hindu Businessline, who deeply understands the intersection of industry demands and the workforce dynamics. Mr. Bharat Kumar, our digital editor, the Hindu Businessline. And our distinguished panel for this session are Mr. Rakesh Patil, co-founder and CTO of Beyond Appliances. Can we have you on the stage, please? Mr. Karthik Narayanan, CEO, Apna Co. Mr. Nitin Dev, CEO of Staffing Solutions, Quest Corp. A round of applause as they walk to the stage, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Nagaraju S., he's the council member and panel chairman, Labor Law, Cassia, promoter and director, Synergy Punching. Welcome to the panel, gentlemen. Over to the moderator.
A few days ago, our chief economic advisor, Dr. Anantha Nageswaran, on a podcast said that at some level, India has not been as successful as other countries, namely Western Europe, specifically Germany, Japan, even China, in according a certain aspect of dignity and respect to trade skills, and he meant blue-collar workers. He said, somewhere along the line, we've made it feel that diploma is lesser than a degree. And he actually made the point in the context of artificial intelligence and how trade skills will actually outpace artificial intelligence. That's one end of the spectrum. And at the other end, and here's an anecdote, like many of us, I do take the opportunity to speak to people from different job profiles and strata of society. So whenever I get a chance, I speak to cab drivers and auto wallahs. And more than a handful of them are career cab drivers who are engineering graduates. And here is a poignant story that one of them shared with me, that he had 3 years of work experience, 1 year each at a different manufacturing company. And at age 29, he was driving a car and he said, had I known that this is what I would do, I would have probably stopped school at standard 10 and invested in cars and been a richer man. So somewhere along the line, at that point in time, I thought we had failed our youth and something needs fixing. So this is a wonderful set of people who will give us those perspectives as to what the industry wants, where it's struggling, where it has its own workarounds, what the government is doing, what the industry expects governments to do. And I'm looking forward to some wonderful perspectives here. So first, I'd like to bring Mr. Nagaraju into the picture. He represents CASIA today, and he's the panel chair for labor law, as well as an entrepreneur. He is a promoter and director at a precision sheet metal and synergy punching. So he must be, I'm sure, painfully aware of the challenges and the opportunities that we have in front of us today. Mr. Nagaraju, government data tells us, and our editor in his welcome speech actually mentioned it, that MSME, the sector, contributes to about a third of our GDP. But government data also tells us that the productivity of MSME workers is at 14% of that of larger scale enterprises, staff there. So the question that I have for you here is, looks like the industry has to lift more than its fair share of load in skilling people. And the fear is that MSMEs can ill afford to lose a skilled rock star. And hence there is a hesitation. So how do you and members of your association, how do you walk this balance? Because once you skill a potential rock star, he or she is going to move away is the fear that MSMEs have. And a couple of them have expressed this to me in the recent past.
Yeah. Sir, you are very much true. MSME is only the platform where it is keep developing the skill. Once the MSME start developing the skill and certify, in the open market, the deeper pockets will appoint them and just snatch the skill. That is how the MSME industries are suffering from productivity. Normally in India, MSME is a training platform, not the growth platform. That's all, even the records also proving on that. It is inevitable for an MSME, it has to keep developing or training the skills, holding for something, may not be a monetary benefits. Sometimes they hold for a few peoples with the good skill and they'll run the business. Normally in an MSME, it will be handled by a single man or two peoples or three peoples. In such cases, an entrepreneur is become an MRCP. MRCP means a manager, a reception, clerk and P1. This is how the MSME industries keep running on that. In such cases, he has to hold certain skill. Then he will just look for some other than monetary benefits. He will help for a skilled employee in certain parameters like just giving some loan, marriage loan, house construction loan and something else. Now these things will not continue for an MSME. We have to just think beyond that. What else can be done to hold the skill and growing in the business? Nowadays, in all these new generations, why they just shift the industry? Probably in an MSME, they cannot create for certain reasons, many reasons for that, where the MSME cannot create an infrastructures where it will appeal for a skilled employee. Then an MSME should shift its focus to hold this upskilling people. You should have that well-lit atmosphere of working areas. Then the industry should have a good canteen systems. Then the industry should have good resting system for its leisure time. Then the industry should give an incentive and recognition to all the skill levels. All these things MSME cannot do immediately because there is a lack of capitals, the lack of infrastructures, and so on. Then what we should do? We should depend only on the banks, governments, and other things. So there should be a real upliftment for an MSME should be supported by the government and the bank. Then only this MSME can hold the skill. Then we can see a good growth and productivity in an industry. Thank you.
Karthik, I'd like to come to you next. Karthik is CEO of Apna company. When I first came across their site, I thought India version of LinkedIn, but their own site beautifully describes why they're different. It says if it's a long game for 7 years, you want to build a network, make sure you impress people, LinkedIn is probably the place for you. But Apna company is where in 3 weeks, if you want to recruit or be recruited, that's the place to go to. So Karthik, from the data that you have across blue collar and gray collar workers, what is the primary driver of attrition? It could be wages, a small difference in wages that drives people to switch companies, or formal onboarding and dignity that is shown to them at the workplace. What really works for companies?
Yeah, I think amongst many things, it will be good for all of us in the audience to kind of understand saying what is the scale of the problem that we're looking at. Sometimes when we really, talk large numbers, $4 trillion economy, etc. and all that, we tend to kind of forget saying, what is the population problem we're looking at. So just to give you, a quick update, if we have about roughly 140 crore, 145 crore, population. If you really look at 16 to 65 age group, that's roughly about 90 odd crores, okay? If you further break it down saying how many are in formal employment, and that's an important aspect, you can measure it by the number of people who are in EPFO, right? So that's about 8 crores. People who file income tax is 7 crores. People who pay income tax is 2 crores. So where is 140 crores? Where is 2 crores? So at 7% growth, there is a genuine demand and supply issue because of, various, aspects which have been spoken about in the previous panel. So wages, definitely, it's the easy answer for everybody saying, the employee at a minimum wage, which ranges, for example, I think the much spoken about, the first panel which spoke about mobile manufacturing. If you go to Hosur Krishnagiri, the minimum wage in that particular plant ranges anywhere between 13 to 15,000. One can guess, how much of actual sustainable, career anybody can make at that particular wage. So if the individual leaves for 500, 1500, it's fairly possible it's a cost of living issue, but I'm going to keep that aside for a moment. I think the larger aspect is also how the employee is brought on board. Today, what is happening, a bulk of work is in the non-formal space, in MSME and even in other, contract manufacturing, workforces. What is happening? There is hardly any onboarding letter. The individual does not know what is going to get deducted. He's not quite sure whether he's going to get any provident fund. There is no ESIC, right? So essentially, he comes in with a very poor understanding, and therefore to kind of peg it to compensation alone might not be the right answer. Now imagine another blue collar worker in another, company where perhaps, he gets digital onboarding, he has access to provident fund, he has access to ESIC, he knows, what leaves to be taken. He has a much better experience. Now, did this problem was not there years back? The answer is, I think there's a major generational shift which has taken place from, let's say, 20 years back to now. What is the competition that you face in a city like Bangalore today? You can easily make 25 to 30K, just doing delivery and gig work, right? So you have your app-based job. You can check in, check out. You have absolute transparency. You work when you want to work. You don't want to work when you don't want to work, right? So that's the entire thing. So unless and until, along with compensation, some of the other employee experiences are fixed, I think it's going to be a challenge as we speak to be able to retain.
You probably answered one of my questions that was supposed to come later, where it's so easy to get a job, but there's no growth and people don't think about growth. But we will come back if you have time to elaborate on that. Nitin, I'd like to come to you next. Nitin Dave heads Quest, and he and Karthik were competitors. Now one is a customer of the other. Quest is the largest staffing solutions company, and they go the whole hog from permanent recruitment to managed outsourcing. Nitin, my question for you today is the recent labor force data that Niti Aayog cited in a report some time ago suggests that the vast majority of India's MSMEs are confined to jobs that require or have to make do with low to quasi semi-skilled jobs. Given this, how realistically, practically possible is it for a service provider like you to say, if an MSME client wants people at scale or a set of clients with similar skill requirements, how realistically possible is it for you to say, they can hit the ground running and this is the training that we have been able to provide?
See, my view is that whether you're a large company or an MSME, it's very important. We were in the previous panels, we were talking about product design. I think it's very important to have the people strategy or the people design. From where you're going to get people, what skills are required, and actually the companies, either the company or a group of companies, need to go down, and the minister was also saying that collaborate with the institutions to say, make the content, select people, do the assessments, get the people. So I'm saying the entire employee life cycle has to be thought through, mapped. So attracting people, retaining them, growing them. And I agree with both my panelists, so a person who's earning 15,000, he will say, okay, I can be in my hometown and near to my family and earn 10,000 more or 5,000 more. So let me leave the MSME. Yeah. But if he's able to see the future, and if there is a growth plan for the person within that organization, and if he sees light at the end of the tunnel, the person would stay. And that's where this whole career design comes into picture. And this is something that should be done. And that's when, people with greater skills would like to stay and, work for the organizations. So that's my view.
Rakesh, this is for you. Rakesh Patil is co-founder and director at Beyond Appliances. They predominantly sell kitchenware, and hop tops seem to be a hot selling product for you. Rakesh heads the company, which is an affiliate, an associate company of Mukunda Foods, and they wanted to venture into B2C sector, and that's why, and hence Beyond Appliances. Rakesh, more than 80% of your revenue, Beyond Appliances revenue, comes from e-commerce. So I assume you bring a unique perspective because you will need both kinds of skills in your manpower. One that needs to think digital because of all the inventory management and order taking and servicing and so on. And the actual people who go out and, fix or repairs or, set up the systems in kitchens. So you need both kinds of skills. I understand that you outsource some of these, but even then, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So when one of your contract employees actually goes into a house, it's Beyond Appliances that he or she represents. So how do you manage this skill requirement? Do you get all that you want from the market?
See, I think when you start as a brand, like when we started Beyond Appliance as a brand, we clearly knew that we want to build a brand which solves the modern kitchen problem. If you see whatever the kitchen has been there, like what my mom used to use the cooktop and what my wife used were the same. We did not see any transformation or in terms of chimneys or hob. We saw that like whatever the Western countries have been built, it's been adopted for the Indian market. When we started building Beyond, right, it was too as we all MSME told, like it's not about building that assembly or giving the product at lower price. We identified what is the pain point in the market and what we can solve. So we make sure identifying the problem, designing, developing and manufacturing and providing the after sales support. Look, having the complete product life cycle being taken care is one of the biggest hurdle which we have been taking around. And as you told, when you had to hire an engineer who is come from top reputed college and his expectation would be completely different from a service engineer who is on field doing the service, and a person who is into a manufacturing line would have a different aspect of building his career. So having all these three things in a particular organization and building set of guardrails which make sure I am happy to be part of this organization or part of this company or part of this growth makes one of the biggest asset for any employee to stick with Beyond, and also showing them the path of what they can do. Being what as a company we do is we always have 5 to 6 interns in each department. It's bare minimum. We make sure that it may be sales, marketing, R&D, production, after sales. Having intern have been one of the biggest asset for the organization, where you make sure the fresh mind coming out of the college is being nourished in the company, which has a culture to be built. You build the culture from the day one. See, where a person who has been working for the MNC organization for 5 years, 10 years, or been working in a different set, he comes to the organization, he comes with some amount of expectations, way of things, it has to work. But when you get a fresh sort of engineers from an engineering college and ask them to perform certain tasks, right, you see that there's no boundary. They don't come with ifs and buts. They try to make sure they try best out of it and get out the results. The same way the managers and the white collars gets the confidence to get them the work done. And they also see that there is a career path. See, one of the biggest reason why anyone being stick to a company, they see is there a career path for me to being associated with this organization. So making sure that at individual level, maybe at manufacturing, maybe at R&D, maybe at production, at after sales, showing them the path where they can go along with this company and proving and showing a role model. You can always say about like this is a path, but you cannot always give them the results. Having a role model who had been a path, being an intern to being a part of the organization where he's being a head of the department or something. that builds him the confidence that this company really values the experience. I need to put my time here. So that is one of the biggest core what we have made sure. And in terms of, as you told, hiring the right resource at every stage is very important. And as you told, when you work with the partners also, like when you work with the partners, we make sure that this information or the way of culture we have been led is being transferred to the company whom I'm working, so that the transparency is created and the culture is continuous, due to which we are able to see that the results are much better.
Mr. Nagaraju, I'll come to you next. So the Niti Aayog report that I referred to also recommends that very quick, flexible 2-week certification courses. And in the IT software service industry, we've come across the concept of MOOCs, massive online courses, open online courses, where self-study, self-learning was an option. So that's what I think Niti Aayog seems to suggest, that quick 2-week flexible certification courses. What do you think about this suggestion? Would you be even willing to look at this instead of ITI trained people? And I'll tell you where this question stems from. Some years ago, when I was associated with a very large IT services company, they had a unit that went and recruited from non-engineering colleges, but with science or math background. And the head of the department, very off the cuff, said, I'm actually willing to go and recruit in standard 12 because there seems to be no value add that the colleges seem to be doing. And that was his opinion at that point in time. So as an entrepreneur yourself and as a representative of an association, what do you think is the solution here?
You are very much true, sir. In this nature of industry and the speed of industry growing in the MSME field, where the question comes, where the industrial responsibility, institutional responsibility, and the capability of an institutions, then employability of in the industry, that comes into the questions. Now in an MSME, any vacancy comes into the question, we always think on the productivity and productions. We cannot spare any employment as a spare. The moment we just think an employee should work, we always ask the employee, wherever he comes from the institutions like ITI, diploma or engineering, whether he can operate CNC machines, whether he can do a measurement, whether he can do a measurement analysis, whether he can just make a data analysis, or whether he can do an instrument measurements, or he can do other things. All these things we calculate. But now the 2-year course or a 3 years course or an engineering of 4 years course, it will not address all these things. Now the question comes, the immediate productivity or the long-term capability. In the industry of MSME, we need different line of a skill set. See, we are the fabricators. In the fabrication line, we have light fabrications, we have a heavy fabrications, we have a CNC machine running, we have a CNC laser machines, we have a CNC machining centers, we have a injection molding, and so on and on. See, if you take on that, national industrial classification itself is around 20 minimum. So at least the engineering, ITI or diploma, they should have a 20 numbers of different courses available in the syllabus. But right now we can find only the colonial branches, colonial syllabus. That will not help in the industry. There is a gap between what is the syllabus and what is the industry requirement. Rather than a 2 weeks program, at least there should be a 3 months or 6 months program where the person, at least a minimum educations of SSLC or a PUC is good enough to take these courses, CNC machine operations or a measurement analysis or the injection molding operations or working in the shop floor as an inspector. These are all good enough. So 2 years diploma or 3 years diploma course may not be enough to just work in an MSME. The skill set is nothing but a common sense. It is not a number of years of experience. Common sense is good enough to work in an MSME. Thank you.
Awesome. So when you recruit, I mean, I'm just building on the last point that you made. So when you recruit, you're willing to go with somebody who shows common sense, maybe over a 4-hour interview, and say, even if you don't have a degree or a diploma, it's all right?
True, sir. Normally in MSME, always they look for the failed candidate, not the past candidates.
Okay.
Why? Because the past candidate with the 60% and 70% certifications, academic records, the bigger industry will recruit him once get the skill set. So we always prefer a failed candidate who got a common sense. That candidate is good enough for MSME industries. We'll train them. We'll put them into the right job. That is good enough for us. That's what the government. Now the government is talking about the KDA. Just chairman has said 4,000 trainees they have built. Where they are gone? 4,000 trainees. Whether they are employable to us. Government is spending crores together money for a skill training. All those trained people not employed in an industry. I don't know where they have gone. I don't know where the money has gone. Thank you.
So again, from our experience of covering industry as business journalists long years ago, again, IT services, because that's what I've covered along with my colleague Venkatesha Babu, who was the moderator for the previous session. So one CFO told me, when I refer to that industry as tax-free, you enjoy all the benefits of being tax-free. And he literally pounced on me saying, don't you dare say that. When I pick a person from an engineering college, I can't bill him or her for 6 months. And that is a form of tax. So, in a manner of speaking, I think that's what Mr. Nagaraju is referring to. Karthik, I'll come to you next. And in our previous panel, we discussed China Plus One, so I'm not going to elaborate on that point. But China Plus One, many people feel we've already missed the bus, even though there are tax benefits for new investments in the manufacturing sector. But a report that I looked up in preparation for this KPMG report that came out earlier this year says that MSMEs must conquer the twin transition of digital literacy and quality standard compliance in order to join global supply chains. Even if global supply chains are not a reality today, India being the size of the market that it is, we still have an opportunity is what I believe. So are you seeing small MSMEs by definition are small, but getting together in clusters and saying, let's train, let's pool our resources in training people, making sure that we dip into the pool and recruit them for ourselves. Is that anything of that sort happening at all?
Well, the honest answer is no, right? And while we have seen some, aspects of MSMEs getting together and being able to kind of form some sort of an association for training, mostly I would see in Tirupur, maybe to some extent in Pune, in Chakan, auto ancillary. I think some aspects have taken place over there, but outside of that, really, nothing substantial has happened. I think, the answer lies in the fact that it's a much larger structural problem, which requires to be solved, because the question really is, who's going to spend for training? What does that SME really think about? The SME is really bothered saying, I'm going to train up a set of people and they're going to get poached. Right? They're going to go join the next. Yeah. So that's the point he's speaking about. In fact, the underlying point that Mr. Nagaraju did not speak about is essentially he's hiring for resilience. Right? It doesn't really matter, what educational background or, whether the individual can come and bounce back. So now what do we do? How do we kind of look at solving the problem? I don't think so there is any one straightaway answer to this entire thing. Number one, definitely association bodies need to come together. And in certain cases, they have come together, the industrial association bodies. Second, MSMEs themselves need to kind of come forward and believe saying, they need to kind of get together. Third, I think the more important part is, I think today government funding is available in some way or the other. Right? I think the PM Vishwakarma,
okay.
And so I think some of those programs are there, which you can get funding to be able to get together. I think the really important part, and there are several kaushal, yojnas, etc. and all that. I think what is required is some clear idea. What is that is required to be done to be able to get, all of these together. I think that's a much larger problem that individuals have to come together to be able to solve for it, for us to make sure saying significant clusters are improved. On the China part that you spoke about, I think that's exactly what they have done to some extent, right? They have specific clusters where, they are addressing one single problem. Hence, the pool of people available is much more. And it's not very different from Bangalore being the IT capital, right? So people are available, distinctly all around in a single pool. So I think that's one of the ways to kind of go about solving for it.
Actually, in an introductory call, in preparation for this panel discussion, we all had a call, and Mr. Nagaraju actually pointed out that we should talk about compliance. So I think it's really close to your heart. So you said it's a major overhead for micro, small, and medium enterprises to invest time and effort for all the compliances that you have to show. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah. Now I think Government of India has just implemented labor codes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now all this Labor Act has been repealed and 4 Labor Code has been introduced. In this 4 Labor Code, the compliance and the code adherence is same for the industry who has employed from 5 members or 1 member to the 5,000 members. There is no gap at all. See, small scale industry who is employed, managed by a 1 person, he cannot compete the compliance with a 5,000 employed industry. The cost of compliance for an MSME is become huge. He cannot do that. Now with the new labor code, I think you could see that in the wage code, they says we have to give an appointment letter. Then we have to just 50% of the wage. Total wage should be a basic and DA. Then indirect cost for that. There is a ESI, there is a PF, there is a gratuity, there is a EL, so on. Then where this absorption of all this cost for an MSME? So MSME for this labor code is going to be a burden on the cash flow for an MSME industries. This nobody has been observed, or I don't know, is a MSME, the pain has been cornered, or I don't know, is that the policy makers are expecting the MSME to gear up to that level? That may be very difficult for an instant business for an MSME industries. Thank you.
Nitin, I'll come to you now. Do you think manpower supplying firms can actually lift a bit of that load of MSMEs in terms of compliance when some significant portion of outsourcing happens to companies such as yours? No, in terms of compliance with regard to labor codes, and when you take over the manpower supplying task on yourself and you offer services such as compliance, do you think that is something that's already happening or at scale, something that you can help solve for the industry?
Yeah, so maybe I'll give you a very small story. So I had 2 people I used to mentor. Now, these 2 people actually went and started a rural e-commerce company. They did well. Then they came to me that they want to hire 300 people from me. So I did that. And these people did their work with complete compliance, end to end. Yeah, with complete compliance, everything. And when you come to a company like Quest, we are able to do that very, very efficiently. Come to think it that we employ on our payroll about 500,000 people. And we are able to do that. But going back to the story of these people, they ended up raising their first round of funding of 240 crores. Today, they are primarily based in UP and other parts of the country, northern parts of the country, but they are valued at $200 million. And they are attracting more investment. So what I'm trying to say is that if you find ways of doing compliance and things like basic hygiene, give some medical cover, give an appointment letter, we are talking about culture, we were talking about these kind of things, or show a long-term path, there are benefits. But any kind of compliance gives scalability, compliance gives quality, compliance also attracts capital. So it's another way, and these are very, very basic compliance. While labor code implementation we are talking about, most of the things were already there. That pay minimum wages, and minimum wages are minimum wages. You have to pay that minimum wages. Give some sort of medical cover to people who are earning below a certain level. If you're paying below something, then pay that PF. And by the way, Today there are many government mechanisms. You can hire people on apprentice. You can hire people as interns. There is a new internship scheme as well. So you can hire people and actually, hire them at intern level, then grow them gradually. So as I said, ultimately it's about career design. We at Quest can do this, and we do this for multiple companies. We have had many companies who started with us as MSMEs in a very small way, hiring 30 people, 40 people, and today are, employing thousands of people. So these are some of my views, and these are some of the journeys I have seen personally. Yeah, thanks.
So if we, like the auto industry did, you make less of a car to make a better car. You're saying if you outsource more and more, you can move from MSME status to greater heights.
Why not? We had this Milky Mist story just now. It's a classic example. And, you have to attract capital. Somebody said the word patient capital.
That's right.
You will get patient capital if you are compliant.
No conversation on skilling is complete without the reference to AI. And the KPMG report that I referred to says that 45% of core skills that MSMEs need today will change by 2030. And the current status for India's digital literacy in MSME employees is less than 35%, and less than 12% of employees actually make use of AI. So I'm going to come to Rakesh and then Karthik for your views on this, because AI looks like it's being referred to as a great equalizer rather than a replacer of manpower. So in this context, and India in different kinds of technologies has sort of lagged behind for some time, but then made the quantum leap because of the learnings that we've had from other countries. You think this is an opportunity that we could make the best of?
I think AI has become part of everyone's life today, from everyone who is part of this panel or in the room, and also an engineer who is part of the company. The biggest thing what AI is enabling is to think you in the multiple directions. See, today you do not to have a what you call coach, guide, or you want to become a specialist to speak around. When you have a simple question, like I'll tell you one simple example. Today, India's put import ban of lot of items like home appliances. BIS is one of the Indian regulatory government which has import lot of like you cannot import lot of toys, glass and everything. So you want to know what are the next set of import material which are getting banned from the Chinese country or Western country. You just type on, get the list of upcoming bans and plan your MSME accordingly. See, we have seen that in our industry, when the Indian government tried to skill by multiple ways, but when they ended up putting a government regulatory that you cannot import this, that under this rule, lot of MSME got the advantage. But the only disadvantage is the rate at which it was stopped and the rate at which the Indian MSME wanted to scale up, having the skills to manufacture, having those engineers to build it. Now today you can use the AI tool to understand the complete flow chart. Today you want to export anything. So just ask like, I want to export this goods to this country. Kindly let me, what are the rules? What are the steps? You get the detailed steps of each and every document, whom to approach, which organization you should onboard, which organization should get certified. I think AI has become one of the biggest asset for each and everyone. And you don't require to be hiring any AI engineer. There's no AI engineer to be available. You need to have a common sense and use a prominent prompts to the AI, and it gives you very specific answers, giving you in detail, stepwise, what to be done. Even in terms of you want to build a small website, it helps you build on your website on your own. I think every MSME cannot adopt like having multiple engineers at a time, but having one or two engineers who can enable and use AI to do multitasking is possible. You not to have a procurement engineer, you not to have a quality engineer, you not to have lot of things. But with one or two interns, you can start doing some AI prompts, understand what all things you can look around. And I feel at every scale, AI would be now in terms of soft AI, now we are coming into physical AI. A lot of physical AI is also been implemented over a period of time. So it's a very high time before we lose out the train or the bus. It's very important for all MSME and all the entrepreneurs to start implementing AIs in your day-to-day activities and see you're able to see tremendous, like we have seen like in our in my each and every engineer in my organization, uses one or other AI tools every out of 6 to 7 hours of 8 hours of work, I see minimum 3 to 4 hours of they use AI tools to improve their productivity. I have seen that the designs which would have taken, if you ask me a simple product, if I want to render in 10 different images or color, you go to Photoshop, do a lot of things. Where you put the solid model in the AI and ask I want this color shades, this color patterns, and this, it gives you within 10 minutes all the things. You just need to select one of this.
Okay.
And I think this is what you can do a lot of things in AI. If your quality is not working out, you give the quality problem. This is a part, these are the dimensions. I am facing this quality issue. How can I solve it?
Yeah. So I get what you're saying, but before I go to Karthik, I just wanted to come to Mr. Nagaraju. So AI is possible, for instance, in journalism, when we want to write something and we want to research, it really adds to our productivity to ensure that we do not repeat an article that has already been written or this research study that has happened. AI helps me. But in this context, I understand robotics, and that's a cost and investment. But will AI actually help on the shop floor? Is it even possible at all?
Yes, these AI implementations in the industry, even in the small scale industry, is possible.
Any examples? Yeah.
This AI, suppose you just use an ERP. When you use an ERP, you want to extract certain data where the product is few times purchased, the product is many times purchased, then the product low level quantity, the product high level quantity, this kind of an information where we can just easily extract. That is a one in the process level also, where we can just take off which is the part has been hold for many days, which is the part has been moved fast. All those information with this AI technology we can extract. And AI technology implementations is very good actually, and also we should know where to use, and there should be a people where they can advise an MSME to use an AI. That is requirement. Yeah.
Karthik, AI as equalizer and not as a replacer.
No, I think, a whole lot of topic that we've discussed right now largely is focusing very much on manufacturing. I think one aspect we need to remember that in MSME, 40% is services. Okay. The other 40% is trading. Only 20% is manufacturing. So in the scheme of things, I think Rakesh covered, quite a bit of it. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a good sparring partner. Today, information is democratized. So somebody who wants to just spar, get some, hallucinated information. Even if so, they can, spar with AI and get what they can get. I think the AI automation, I think a lot of these words are being usually used in factory is prevalent. I think there's a cost of capital for us to kind of get that in India. I think amongst many famous companies, Fanuc is one in Japan. The entire concept is called dark factory. There is no light switched on, right? Robots repair themselves. They don't even need humans to kind of come in. I think that's definitely somewhere down the road. I would do believe there is a lot of aspects of AI which are going to be a force multiplier as we kind of move along, right? I think largely because information is democratized to a lot of more people.
Okay. And then my favorite is the China question. And we already dwelt on China plus one and the clusters that Karthik referred to. Clusters, we do have clusters, like I'm familiar with the Tirupur cluster and then the Ludhiana cluster and so on. It does help cut costs for vendors who supply to MSMEs, but I don't think we've done that at a scale that we would have liked to. So what is it that we must be doing, India must be doing, in order to play catch up, if not at least match China? Because one of the things that I heard, and you might want to develop on that, is that the provincial or the local district or state government authorities in China actually have targets. So meeting a certain target in terms of development, manpower addition, revenue growth is as much a problem of the government as it is of the entrepreneur. So I'm going to come to Rakesh and then Mr. Nagaraju on this. What is it that India can be doing, should be doing now?
See, I think one of the biggest, I'll just to tell you, in a battlefield, when you want to fight with your enemy, you cannot fight with the strength what your enemy has. You need to fight with the strength which you have. So, if you want to overcome what China or you cannot try to replicate what they did and try to make it better efficiently now. You need to fight in a different way. You need to think differently and have a different approach of solving a problem. Rather, example, if you want to be a MSME, instead of being MSME, can you be a brand? Can you build a market for a global? See, for example, every country has their home appliance brand, or every China has a media, US has Whirlpool and everything. And India, you see a lot of Western countries have been putting their products in India, and we are able to adopt it and use it. We cannot fight the battle by telling we want to become a manufacturing more efficiently than China. We can become a bigger brand than China. You need to find what, in your home ground in India, what if you have 140 crores of population and 30 to 40 crores of households. There are immense amount of problem statement which you need to identify and solve. Because today as a country, we import a lot of parts, substitute materials from Western countries. If you're able to solve the problem in a unique way where others cannot solve it, is a way you can win it. You cannot win the battle by just doing what others or Chinese have done and I'll replicate the same until I can become better than them. So you need to change your field of fight to win this.
Thank you. Mr. Nagaraj.
The very good growth story of China is a cluster development. China is increasing number of clusters. In India, we are increasing number of small scale industries. So that will not help. The cluster development is the key for MSME growth. If you just think any facility, if they want, a common facility has to be created among the same region where the industry can go there and use the facility. Suppose if you just think, now the paneling has to go for CE approvals. The CE approvals now in Bangalore is not available, we have to go to Delhi. And then Delhi we have to just wait for so many days and we have to spend money. Now if you think EMS industries, that ESD packaging is still we are importing, and for an approval again we have to go somewhere else. Now for any development of IP65 cabinet, if you want to just prove, I have to go somewhere else. Then I have to carry it. So these are all the problems where the India is facing. Where in the China, if you go an MSME industry, in that MSME region as a cluster, you will find next door is the raw material available.
Correct.
What you will do, you will bring the raw material for the day, you will process it, dispatch it. But we have to just go a few kilometers away, even sometimes out of the state, we have to bring the material, we have to store, inventory, all those things. Indian MSME is facing that problem. So that problem has to overcome with that. Now in India also they have just come out with a cluster project, but there is lot of loopholes where with that policy, the cluster project, with the cluster program, we cannot implement because there is a lot of loopholes. They say 60% subsidy from the government of state, central government, 20% is cluster investment, other 20% is state investment. There is no fund available from the state to give for the cluster. This is the present situations available for cluster generation. So this is very difficult in India. They have to just, government has to look out what is the best way and easy way to develop more number of clusters where the MSME can use the facility and start growing.
Okay.
Thank you.
I had a few other themes, but in the interest of time, I'm going to rein myself in. And I have one question, and I'll address this to Nitin. In our introductory call, Nitin was very sporting. He said, throw anything at me. I live, breathe staffing solutions, so you should throw this at me. So I'm going to challenge you a bit. I saw a difference of opinion that you had with Mr. Nagaraju on outsourcing. Again, the context of labor codes. Because of the requirement, and Mr. Nagaraju dwelt on the cost of time and effort that you need and the cost of compliance there, is there a danger of micro units actually going away into the shadow of the unorganized sector because of these compliance requirements? If I'm such a minuscule person trying to make an honest living as an entrepreneur and I'm unable to comply, then I actually go informal rather than formal. Do you see a danger of that?
See, there can be a danger that because the costs are prohibitive, and but again, if you look at our minimum wages, are they really sort of it's a very, very basic requirement. I think they are below the living wages sometimes in many cases. And these are really government laws. If you don't follow the laws, if you don't follow compliances, that's where, challenges happen. And in my opinion, that my view is that, it's better to, fight the other way around and come out of it and see how you can reduce your costs. Can we use AI? So anything that is routine, anything that is rule-based, it can be replaced by AI. Your cost can come down. The government is giving many mechanisms where you can reduce your cost. You don't have to pay compliances if you immediately hire apprentices. There is a PMS internship scheme where the government says, the Prime Minister internship scheme, if you hire a person for 9,000 rupees in this scheme, the government will pay 8,100 rupees. You just have to pay 900 rupees. Why can't you get a person, train that person for 900 rupees only, and then gradually employ the person? So there are mechanisms, there are ways out. All I'm saying is, it's better to do the things the right way rather than going into the shadows. And that fear is always there, that the mindset is there that you'll, let me sort of, cut corners. But actually, cutting corners does not give scalability, does not give funding, does not bring you in the mainstream. And, ultimately, think of all the big companies. At some time, they must have been MSMEs. And, you have to come out of that chain. And there are challenges because it's not easy. But I think there are ways to do it. Many government schemes are there. Technology is there. And you go to somebody that I'm doing things the right way. Everything is right, compliant, and you will attract capital as well. So that's my view. You have to break that vicious cycle, which is very tough. It's very easy to say on the stage, but to really do it in reality.
Looks like we are running out of time for audience questions, so I'm going to encourage all of you to address our panelists when they get down from the stage, over drinks or dinner. So please forgive me for that, but we're really over time. But I must have mentioned a word of appreciation for our panelists. They've been really crisp, keeping within those 2 minutes. Thank you. Yes, they deserve a round of applause. So I had told them anywhere between 90 seconds, to about a couple of minutes. That's all you'll have per question, and they've really respected that. I'm grateful to all of them for that. Thank you so much.